Hey guys, welcome to Agent versus Lender. We are getting started again. So we have Kevin and Jamie on with us. So they are local agents here in the Utah area that we'll let them introduce themselves a little bit more, kind of tell us how long they've been in the business, and then we're gonna get into. Well, Kevin said he actually is going to give away some trade secrets today. So,
Sweet.
yeah, so we're going to get into that. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Richter with Richter Real Estate Group. I've been in the business for 14 years. I focus primarily on sellers, and I tell you, it's been an interesting market. So I'm looking forward to see what the next year brings.
Awesome. All right. Jamie, how about you? Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Jamie Eddy with the Mascaro Group out of Salt Lake. I have been selling real estate for 14 and a half years, and this is an interesting market with interesting interest rates going on.
Well, you know what? That's a great topic. So you both mentioned the market. We're deep in COVID, which as I would have thought at the beginning of this that it was just going to turn the real estate market sour, but man, I tell you, I haven't seen it. So what have you guys seen in this market?
Well, go ahead, Jamie. You first.
Okay, when I first, the COVID, we're going into quarantine, 2008 went through my head all over again. And I had to sit down and I went in panic mode because I'm commission based, full-time realtor. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I had to refocus. What did I do in 2008? And I calmed myself, it's okay. I sold houses even in 2008 when everything was going foreclosure or short sale. The market was terrible because people were losing $50,000, $60,000 in equity. I told myself, I still sold real estate. I still did it. So I called myself and be like, I can still do this. If I can sell anything in 2008, COVID has nothing on me.
Yeah, I agree. What have you seen, Kevin?
Well, as far as the beginning of March, I was like you thinking that this is going to, take a hit to the real estate market. And I was actually really excited about it. And I was looking at it from the standpoint of, this is the opportunity to gain market share. This is the opportunity to get ahead when everybody else is sitting on the sidelines worrying. And kind of to borrow a phrase from Warren Buffett, he says he simply tries to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And so I saw it as a huge opportunity. I certainly didn't expect it to play out how it did. And inventory along the Wasatch Front here in Utah has already been, it had been dropping, pretty steadily, since December anyway. But as soon as that hit, it started dropping in a big way. And I think there was a couple things that happened. First of all, you had people that were kind of holding their homes back to wait to see what happens. And I actually thought that was a bigger impact than it actually was. And, I started tracking the under contracts and solds and realized that things were actually selling really quickly. And so it wasn't just that people were holding homes back. It's just that as soon as they hit the market, they're going under contract and getting sold. The bigger reason is, obviously, no matter what the market does, it's controlled by supply and demand. And we've got a low supply already. It's been steadily dropping, but the demand, when they started, not only when they dropped the Fed funds rate to next to zero, which doesn't have a direct impact on interest rates, but when they started doing the quantitative easing, and then more recently buying corporate bonds and things like that, they're just pouring money, just throwing money at this problem. And when they started doing the quantitative easing and buying back the bonds and those interest rates, we had somebody that got locked at a 30-year fixed rate for 2.5%.
We're doing that today.
What world is this, right? And so the buyer demand is so huge. Everyone wants to hurry up and get something. And now it's getting to the point where it's a feeding frenzy. Something hits the market, and if you're not on it in an hour, then, oh, sorry, you missed it.
Yeah. It is so crazy. Yeah, you mentioned the interest rates are really low. We were saying that we've been locking people in the twos now on a 30-year fixed, which is just insane.
Crazy.
Yeah. I had somebody talk to me yesterday about buying a home and thought that they might want to wait. But I can see if you wait and even if the prices go down, the chances are your interest rates are going to go up, which just negates anything that you've gained. So I don't know. It's an interesting market.
let's build a little bit on that wait mentality. Because I have a few that were like, I'm going to wait till this COVID is over. Number one, COVID's never going away. It's going to be like the flu. There's going to be a different strain every year. They're going to guess at vaccines. Great. Perfect. It's never going away. Number two, you're going to wait. And let's go statistically what we've done in the last few months, even with the prices of homes. They've gone up in 3 months. So in 3 months, you've lost 1% of what you qualify for. Even though the interest rate's down, you're still losing 1%. And first-time home buyers, that price range of 200 to 300, there's like maybe in one city, 10 houses. And those are gone in an hour, like Kevin was saying. Like the wait mentality, it's hard to overcome because you do have these, and you have first-time home buyers that are scared. It's a huge purchase. You have parents that are like, well, what if the market drops? The market might drop. It might drop tomorrow. But I know in 5 to 10 years, you're going to make 50 to 60,000 more, even if it drops tomorrow.
Yeah,
And here's the other thing about rates. I mean, 1% rise in rate is a 10% rise in monthly payment. So everybody agrees that over the long term, rates are going up. 10 years from now, rates are going to be higher, right? I don't think there's anybody that disputes that. So like she said about prices, yeah, that'll be a blip on the radar, but the rates, locking in the money this cheap for 30 years, this is the opportunity. So
yeah, I mean, there's so much room to go upward, but not very much to go downward. So yeah, exactly. You're just nickel and diming it at that point, I think.
Yeah, sometimes that phrase that you're stepping over dollars to pick up the pennies. Right now is a great time. It's just it's saying how low those rates are. So what do? Do you guys have anything? What do you tell people who want to wait?
I have a presentation and I show them the statistics, I show them the numbers, and I show them, and I'll tell them history. I'll tell them history about the 18% interest rates in the 80s, when the market dropped in 2008, and what people did and how they overcame. And I mean, fortunately, I have enough history with family buying in the 80s, myself buying in the 90s, and myself buying in the 2000s that I can show them history and statistics of, yeah, it's great and the market might drop, but I still can't get the first time. I built a house in 1997. I was 18 years old and I built it. Base price on it was 105 and I put upgrades in it. I qualified for 127 and I thought that was insane. And I closed at 115 with upgrades. And I thought I was living high on life. I cannot go back and buy my house that I built in 1997 for $115,000. That house right now is going for $325,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And 23 years later, here we are. What do you do? And the market's dropped twice in that time that house has been built. But it didn't affect, it's still not 115.
Yeah, you mentioned the history. I don't know if Kevin was going to jump on this, but I know that in the past, I have a chart that shows that in the past, I don't remember how many years, but it goes back quite a ways, like 80 years or so. And there were 5 or 6 times in that 80 years where you actually had prices dropping. The rest of the time, it's always went up. But within just a few years, probably the worst one is either in the Depression or in 2000, this last one in 2008, where the market really dropped down, 2007, 2008. But even in 2007 and 2008, it only took 4 years and we were back to where we are and then surpassed it. So, when people think the market's going to drop and they're trying to time that bottom, you're just playing a game that's probably not going to be won.
Yeah.
Well, in 2007, as the market dropped, right, our interest rates were at 6.5%, and we lost $30,000 to $50,000 depending on your home. And like you said, 4 years later, people were coming back and they were surpassing that $50,000, $60,000 loss, and they were going and making $30,000 to $40,000 more in 4 years. So you hold on to your house 4 years, and I think that's the mentality that first-time home buyers have, is that they have the renter's mentality. Renter's mentality is, if rent goes up, I'm moving, so I need to be prepared to move. And so you have to overcome that too, because when you buy a home, you're planted. You're there for as long as you can afford that home, which you're qualified for it. So unless you lose a job or divorce, things like that, you should be able to afford your home. And it's a controllable taxes are going to go up, so plan on that. But you don't have to move because nobody's going to come in and say, guess what? I'm raising the rent $500 and either you pay it or you move. So that's another thing to overcome is renters' mentality.
I think also it's important to ask questions, because if you tell them what you expect to see and what you have seen, then they aren't going to buy in as much as if you ask them questions to guide them to the right answer, right? Because and just to role play really quick, Ron, if you don't mind, is it okay?
Sure.
So just pretend that you want to wait, right? So Ron, just out of curiosity, I'm sure you've got a great reason for wanting to wait. I'm just curious, what is it?
Oh, I just think the market's going to go down, so I just want to wait and.
Okay, gotcha. And just out of curiosity, how much do you think the market will go down?
I think it's going to go down. It might go down 10%.
10%. Okay, got it. Well, and have you seen where interest rates are right now?
Yeah, they're pretty low.
Yeah, they're at historic lows, as a matter of fact, right?
Yeah, they
You
are.
know what happens when interest rates go up by simply 1%?
No, I don't.
Well, your monthly payment goes up by 10%. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so let me just ask you this. Now, pretty much all experts agree that rates will rise. So if you wait a year and the market comes down 10% and rates go up by 1% or more, well, then you've pretty much broken even, haven't you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so do you really want to put your plans on hold just to break even?
Dropping bombs.
Yeah, I know. Drop the mic right there, man. Kevin,
Well, and so just basically asking questions to guide them through, because if they give the answers, they're more likely to believe the answer, right? And it's not that you're trying to trick them. I mean, this is in reality. I mean, right? I don't know of a single person who doesn't think rates are going up, right? And will prices go down? Well, maybe they will, but when, right? Maybe they'll go up another 10% before they come down 20. I mean, we don't know, but rates are going up. We know that. We just don't know when.
Right. Yeah, we've been in a rate market that we're really spoiled. It's just unprecedented in history that we have had rates so low for so long, and especially that they've dropped now. So I'll be honest. Last year when they were in the threes, I was telling people they just aren't going to go down. Now it's just like I'm eating my words, but it's just like we're almost free money now.
So historically, they've never been this low. And even I was working with some buyers and they were freaking out that the interest rates were at 4.5% because they had jumped from 3.9 to 4.5. And they were like, well, that's a high interest rate. So then you go back to history. Okay, so in the 80s, you could buy a house at $52,000 and have an 18% interest rate. So would you rather have this house at 4.5% and build equity, or do you want to wait until the market drops to 52,000 and get an 18% interest rate? Like it's apples and oranges.
Yeah. It is totally different.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. I mean, we're not only are we in a market where the rates are really low, but prices are still going up, and so people are buying houses and automatically they're getting that appreciation. So we've had some people where we've closed them even a year ago when rates were 1% higher or maybe a little bit more. Maybe their circumstances have changed or they want some cash out. And we've gone to refinance them and had to get the appraisal again. But the value of the house has gone up, just in the last year has gone up so dramatically. And then they're locking in at these crazy low rates and saving tons of money. And so, sometimes it's just getting into that game. And then, if the market really does drop out or rates, go down into the ones, maybe we're going to eat our words that two's about as low as it's going to go. But, so maybe that happens, but they still have that flexibility to, change things around as they go too.
Well, and who knows, because they're buying corporate bonds, so maybe they will do that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too. You buy today at 2.5%. okay, I have a magic ball, and I know in February of 2021, the rates are going to go down to 1.5%. Guess what? In February 2021, I can refinance my house at that rate. I don't have to cash out. I just have to refinance.
Yeah. So if there's any consumer listening to this, we're throwing these numbers out like maybe the rates are going to go down to 1.5%.
Yeah.
I will.
She mentioned magic ball, so it says ask again later. So
if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, he just picked up a magic 8-ball. So that's hilarious.
And got the ask again later. So I guess we'll ask again in January.
That's right.
So rates are going to go down there. So I don't know what. So I know, Kevin, that you do. We're going to change it. We're going to change it up just a little bit. You do some listings. You probably focus on those a little bit more.
Yeah.
So in this market, what is it that you can do to help in the listings? I mean, a lot of times we are trying to buy a house, trying to list a house, and we're competing with for sale by owners, or you're competing with the low rate or the low commission brokers. How do you guys compete? What is it that you do to compete with that?
Well, I think it's, first of all, nobody should hire me unless they truly believe that I can provide more value than what I'm charging. So, and I tell people that, straight out the gate. And so what it comes down to is I just focus on stats, right? And for sale by owner, if you look at the NDR stats, I believe the number is $42,000 difference between the median price for sale by owner versus an agent represented seller. And that's a national number, but as a for sale by owner, there's just not going to be the same exposure, right? So I talk about emotion, right? Because, and I often joke around with sellers and tell them, hey, if you got enough patience, I can get you $1 million. You excited? It might take a while, right? On the same token, I can have an offer for you today. I'm going to grab my wallet from the car, right? You're probably not going to want to take it, right? But if you price it in this market even a little bit high, then you can generate emotion, get people seeing each other coming and going from their house, right? And that feeds the multiple offers, and then you can bid them against each other. So I think in this market, that's the key. Buyer agents hate it, obviously, because it's so difficult to get a house right now. Particularly as Jamie mentioned, in the 250 to 300 range, there's just nothing available.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a matter of, so what I focus on is selling our system for generating emotion, which leads to multiple offers. And then our stats just show that we're almost 4% higher than the market average. And by the way, you look at somebody like Homey, the market beats Homey by almost 3%, for the average agent. So, so it's definitely just, if you show them the numbers, they can make the decision on their own based on what they're seeing.
Yeah. So, what is it as far as, getting in front of these people who are selling? What are some of the tactics that you use?
Well, it's basically just, there's that old adage, call them till they buy or die. I think, I don't know who came up with that, but basically it's just not giving up. And I remember there was one seller I had that I followed up with him for 4 months, never had talked to the guy. And then one day he calls me out of the blue and says, hey, Kevin, it's Jared. I'm thinking, Jared. Hi, Jared. and
I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had called him every week for 4 months, and he felt like he knew me. And so I think that's the key, right? You just stay persistent, you stay consistent, and you keep calling and following up. And when they're ready, they'll let you know. The other thing is, don't just rely on one medium. Don't just rely on calls. Don't just rely on text messages. You can do calls, do text messages, emails. Even go knock on the door, right? If you know that they're looking to do something, right? Just get a hold of them however you can. I'll look them up on Facebook, see if we have any common friends. I'll reach out to the common friends and say, hey, how well do you know so-and-so? Can you give me an introduction, right? So.
Cool.
Do you have a system that you use for some of that follow-up, like a CRM or?
Yeah, so we've used Commissions Inc. We're looking at other options right now. So, Commissions Inc. is great. We've used Boomtown, and I've also just used things like Mojo and and a simple Excel spreadsheet. I do rank if I have an A buyer, I have those in a buyer or seller. I have those in a separate list, and I target those first. And then, the other ones that are more on the drip type thing, that's just like a kind of my strategy is, when the lead first comes in, once a day for a week, once a week for a month, and then basically monthly at that point. So.
You mentioned CRMs, and I know that some people ask us sometimes, so what is the best CRM? Do you guys know what the answer to what the best CRM is?
The one that works best for you and the one that you will use.
The one you'll use.
Bingo.
There you go. There you go.
That's exactly the right answer. It's the one that you will use. I mean, Kevin, you just mentioned probably 4 or 5 different CRMs, and you may have changed just because they were just too cumbersome or just didn't offer the things. The CRM of all the bells and whistles, if you aren't going to use it, is a terrible CRM for you.
Yep.
So you're right, Jamie. That was the exact right answer. It's the one that you will use.
I wish when I first got into the business 14 years ago that somebody would have sat down and told me how important a CRM was. I was in the business a long time before I realized I need a CRM. Like, I didn't even realize what a CRM was when I first got into the business. And now I can't imagine doing business without one. So like new agents will be like, what's the most important thing that a new agent needs to know? Well, besides like not being a silent agent, you also need a CRM. You need to track that stuff with a SHIT so that you can go back and follow up and do. Like, that is number one, to have a CRM that you will use.
Yeah, I agree.
So Jamie, I know that you also do some listings as well. You mentioned just before that you do really like working with first-time home buyers. So what are some ways that you use to get in front of those home buyers or the people that are wanting to sell their home?
So that is something I've been working on. So I'm doing Facebook ads, and I'm doing a lot of social media posts. Like, I took a social media class, and I am old school. Like, I am not one that's like needs to put my entire life on Facebook. And so it's been really hard for me because it's like content, like coming up with content to put on Facebook, but then they say, don't make your Facebook page and your Instagram page the same. Like, when you post, they may be different. So then it's like, oh, how do I do this? So it's just trying to get in front of people on social media, and really, I struggle. Like, if anybody wants to help me, I'm looking for help. But yeah, it's word of mouth, and like, my kids are that age, and so I have 2 girls that are involved in softball, and so they have parents that have kids that age, and so it's just, do not be a silent agent. You cannot be an agent that's successful if nobody knows you're an agent.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that doesn't even mean that you have to go out and be, pushy salesy with people, but it's seriously just going out, being in the community, helping people understand that you are an agent. And so that's what you do. And then the more that you get that exposure, you don't necessarily have to, everyone that you meet, hey, do you have a house to sell? Hey, do you have a house to sell? Hey, have you thought about buying? Hey, have you heard about interest rates? So
and that's another thing. Like, with COVID, like, for me, I'm very social. My husband and kids make fun of me because they say I can't go to the gas station without knowing someone. And so like, they never want to go with me anywhere because they know it's going to be like a half-hour, 45-minute conversation with somebody they don't know, but I've known. And so with COVID, though, you have your masks and everybody treats you like you have the plague. And so I've struggled socially because I'm like, I don't want to like get in their bubble. And is that person? Because I can't really see their eye. I see their eyes, but I can't see their face. So is that? And I don't want to be that, oh, hi there. And they're like, back up, lady. So
yeah, sorry about that last week, by the way. So yeah.
I get it. Yeah. But no, it's different. It's like, that's what's hard too, is you're used to like being able to go networking and socializing with people and seeing people in the grocery store and just making like small talk. And I feel like that has kind of put a damper on people because nobody wants to talk because you might have the plague.
You don't want to come across as a pushy agent, right? And I think the best way to avoid that is to ask questions and come from curiosity. And think that you can come across as pushy if you are, again, coming from curiosity, asking questions, and then just listening to their answers and letting that direct the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, because you seem a lot more helpful and, wanting to help them in their, situation instead of, hey, how can I make a buck? You know what I mean? Because the money will follow, as long as we're being helpful, the money's going to be there. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, sincerity. Sincerity, people can see through that if you don't.
I agree. I agree with
Yeah.
that. And when I first got into the business, well, the first like 5 years, people would use another agent and then come to me with all their problems about their agent or problems with their contract. I'm like, whoa, like you didn't want to hire me? I'm not answering these questions. For one, I can't, but for two, like, not my problem. Go have fun with that agent you hired.
Yeah.
I saw a funny meme the other day where a loan officer, he said, every time that one of my friends says, oh, we're just closing on a house next week, he always says, oh, that's great. You should go out and celebrate right now and buy a new car.
Oh, that's mean.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I got a good laugh out of that one.
Yeah. We hope they get a flat tire on the way to closing. No.
No, because we all have an abundance mentality. There's
Yeah.
plenty out there, right? We're going to help.
But it's still funny, a little bit.
It is funny. That's funny.
It is a lot
So.
funny.
I used to, that used to kind of bug me a little bit when I had family or friends that would use somebody else instead of financing. But I've just come to realize that everybody knows an agent, everybody knows a loan officer. And so sometimes they just choose. And it's not like they didn't choose you because they don't like you. It's just, that's who was there at the time, which is why you guys were both, I think, mentioned your sphere of influence. And I know we were talking about social media, which is part of your sphere of influence. And if they don't use you or use me, it's sometimes our own fault. Because,
Well, and it's interesting too. In Utah, 700 households, 700,000 households in the whole state, roughly. Okay, and the number of agents, roughly 28,000. If you do the math, there's like one agent for every 24 families in the state. So everybody knows multiple agents, and so the thing is, you got to make sure that you get to them before anybody else does. And by the way, if you go out for an appointment and they don't sign the listing agreement or they don't sign the buyer agreement, and they're going to think about it, well, work on your closing scripts, because if they think about it, while they're thinking about it, they're going to remember that Aunt Sally is also an agent. Oh, and so is their cousin, cousin Frank, right? And so they're going to find somebody else. They do know other people that are agents. So.
Right. Yeah. So having like a really good value proposition, right up front, this is what I bring to the table. This is, the difference. And yeah, I think that makes a big impact for sure.
Certainly.
So Kevin, let's get to that trade secret that you were telling us about.
Oh, the trade secret. Gosh.
Yeah. What's the
Oh, well, yeah, the secret that's not a secret, right?
Yeah, that one.
Or that shouldn't be a secret that is a secret. Yeah. So the secret is just showing up. And it's interesting, even through this COVID, I actually talked to an agent who said that the market wasn't very good right now. And I'm thinking, well, that just seems strange to me that somebody would say that. But it's in any time there's fear, people are going to decide, are they going to hunker down or are they going to go to work? And one thing I've always done is I've always gone to work. I've been consistent and persistent, right? I show up every day. I make my phone calls. I look for new business. And there's a lot of people that, I like Netflix, but I don't sit home all day watching it, and hopefully that doesn't come across as judgy, but it's just a choice. And the reality is we make the choices that move us forward or that keep us, where we are, or that make us move backward. And if you're going to, take this opportunity to sit back and wait for the world to recover, people are going to pass you by. So that's the secret, right?
So
Work hard.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Work hard and gain market share, because there's fear out there, and this is your chance to seize the opportunity.
So what you're saying is if you show up and you do the basics, business is going to come to you.
Yeah.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
It's just strange how that works.
And I think
Yeah.
that's, the same on our side of things too, on the lending side. People are always looking for, man, what's that one thing that I can use to get the advantage on my competitors? I need to, be the first one to have this technology or this, game plan so that, I can set myself apart. But really a lot of times setting yourself apart is answering your phone.
Yeah.
And, being available and having a value proposition and having, some of these just really basic things that everybody, it's like Realtor 101, it's Lender 101. But doing those things every day and making your phone calls every day and, doing those just basic things, that's what's going to bring in the business.
Yeah. If you show up, the business will show up. And you might ask, does that really work? And looking at the magic 8 ball here, signs point to yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So is there anything that you guys would like to add? Is there's like one point that if you were talking to a new agent or somebody that wants to bring in some business, what is that one thing you would tell them? I think Kevin probably just answered probably it, but is there anything else that you would add to that?
I would just say don't be a silent agent and don't get in the business if you think this is easy, quick money, because it's not. Because, people don't realize, you might get a big $6,000 commission check, but you may not get another sale for 3 to 4 months. So that $6,000 has to pay your bills until you make another closing. And so I think that if we can get past that mentality of easy buck, then you'll be successful.
The only other thing I would add is don't let the market discourage you, because it will change. And by the way, I believe that we will head into a recession, and this crazy market that we're in right now, I think will go by the wayside, and we'll head to a shifted market, and that'll present a different number of challenges. But it still comes back to, what do you do, right? It's not about the market; it's about what you do. So don't let the market discourage you. Just let it dictate what activities you take.
Yep. Yeah, because even in that recession, both of these agents, Jamie and Kevin, they're both going to still be selling. They're still going to be selling houses. They're still going to be helping people buy houses. And so, I think that's a great point. Jamie, sorry, I think I may have cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I was going to add to what Kevin's saying about the recession. One key point: just because it's a recession doesn't mean you're going to find the homes under 200,000 anymore. Like, it's still going to be a tough price range, because even in a recession, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars going off on homes, unless it's $1 million, multi-million-dollar homes. Like, that's where you see the biggest discount. But it's not a discount where my $400,000 house is all of a sudden going to be $200,000 and you're going to make this mansion at $200,000. So yes, a recession is bound to happen, because history has repeated itself every 10 years about-ish. But it's not going to be discounted high. Like, I'm waiting till a $500,000 house is $250,000 and I'm going to move my family in. Like, that is not going to happen.
Unless you're squatting.
Unless somebody hasn't paid their taxes for 7 years,
right.
They don't pay their tax bill.
There's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, you guys. I think we've got some great content here. I know we mentioned we didn't want to go over too far, but we could actually dive into some of the things that you've said and dive in much deeper. So I don't know, maybe we'll have to do it again. But we want to thank you for imparting some of your wisdom and having the abundance mentality and sharing. And I think I know that I've learned some things. It was a great exercise that Kevin did. And Jamie's given us some great things to think about. So anyway, if you guys like our podcast, go out and give us an honest review. Of course, we like the 5 stars. And if you need to get hold of Jamie, how is it that they can get hold of you? I
have a website, jamiesellsutah.com. or Jamie Sells Utah, Utah spelled out, at gmail.com, or my phone number, 801-645-0562.
Kevin, how can they get hold of you?
I'll just keep it simple. My cell phone, 801-475-5000. Just give me a call, shoot me a text.
Cool.
All right.
And to get hold of Taylor and I, you can call us at 801-628-7667. And thanks for joining us on Agent versus Lender. And we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
Hey,
Bye.
thanks, guys.